Hi there, my name is Caitlin Bandy and this is my channel BandysBooks, and today I am here to talk to you about my TBR for April. So my TBR is going to be a little bit different this month. I'm participating in 2 different readathons and both of them require different things. So we're going to talk about each one individually and what I'm doing to participate in them. So first of all, I am participating in Nevermore-athon, which I'm actually helping to host. I'm in charge of Team Stoners. And for Nevermore-athon, we have a bingo card with a whole host of prompts. And most of the prompts are pretty open-ended. Things like a book with a gray cover, books with a protector type character, books that were concrete on your TBR, things like that. And so it leaves it a little bit more open for mood reading, which I don't usually do. Usually I try to pick out my books in advance, but I have a lot of ARCs to get through and just a lot of books on my shelf that I've been meaning to get through. So I thought this would be a fun time to kind of leave things open-ended and just read as I felt like it. Now, my concrete TBR and the 15 or so books that I'm going to talk to you about right now are for TransGirlApril. TransGirlApril is a month-long readathon. I'm super excited to participate in TransGirlApril. I definitely have read books by trans authors before, but I know that this is an area where I can do better, where there are certainly more authors I could be reading, and just in general, there's more information I could be taking in. So I'm gonna approach this month and this readathon as an opportunity to learn more, to be a better ally, to support the trans community. The first prompt for TransGirlApril is to disavow fascism and to pledge support to the trans community. I think that this channel has always had a focus of reading diversely. I've always tried to be clear that it's my goal to support all communities in their fight for equality and for justice, and the trans community is no different in my opinion. I strongly believe that everyone deserves respect and equality, and I support any cause that helps further equality. I 100% unequivocally do not support any types of legislation or movements that try to make other groups feel less than or literally legally make them less than. I'm really sad to see what's happening to the trans community here in the United States, and I will continue to support trans people in their fight for rights. So now on to the books. I really enjoyed the way that this is set up. So we have sort of a graph, and we have books that are by trans males, trans females, and non-binary folks. And we have fiction, nonfiction, and genre fiction. So I have 3 books picked for each category, and then I have a handful of additional books that are going to be some supplemental reading for me. And while I'm talking about the books, if you hear a little bit of noise in the background, some snorts or some rustling, my little girl Luna here is just really excited and riled up right now, and she's like running around playing with her toys. So there may be some background noise. I'm going to start with a fiction. The first book that I have picked out is Nevada by Imogen Binnie. This is somewhat of a classic, and this is about a woman named Maria. I believe she starts out in New York City, and then she has a rough breakup and decides to take a road trip. She ends up in a small town in Nevada, and she finds a young boy who is possibly trans and ends up in sort of a role model position. This book sounds really interesting to me, and I'm kind of excited to read it because Nevada is the state that I currently live in, and this sounds like a lot of fun. I've driven all over Nevada, so I'm curious to see all the descriptions of rural Nevada and how they match up to my experiences here. I'm looking forward to getting into this one. For my non-fiction pick, I have Please Miss, A Heartbreaking Work of Staggering Penis by Grace Lavery. This is Grace's stream of consciousness type memoir. I think there's like a mix of dramatic readings and poetry and just different things mixed throughout this story. And I am really looking forward to this one a lot. I think just the title alone had me cracking up, and I feel like her sense of humor is going to be similar to mine. So I think I'm going to really enjoy this one. And for my genre fiction selection, I picked Light from Uncommon Stars by Rika Aoki. This sounds amazing. It seems like it's kind of a space opera slash fantasy slash science fiction sort of a deal, and I am here for it. This follows a character named Shizuka who made a deal with the devil. In order to escape damnation, she has to entice 7 different violin prodigies to trade their souls for success. She's already delivered 6 souls when she meets Katrina, a young transgender runaway, and she's thinking that she might just be number 7. That is until she meets Lantran, an interstellar spaceship captain and mother of 4, and interstellar refugee. The lives of these three women are going to intertwine into a story of found family, identity, and magic. This sounds amazing, and furthermore, I've seen it recommended a couple different times by a couple different people whose opinions I respect, so I have a feeling I'm probably going to love this one too. And for the fiction selection, I have 30 Names of Night by Zain Jukadar. 5 years after a fire kills his mother, a closeted Syrian trans boy sheds his old identity, sheds his old name, and decides to find a new one. The only place that he really feels at home is when he's out in the streets late at night and he's painting murals. And during one of his escapades into the night, he finds a journal that ties his mother's death to that of a famous painter. I am really interested in this one. I think this sounds really good. I love the mystery element. I love that it talks about identity. I'm looking forward to diving in. For my nonfiction selection, I have Before We Were Trans by Dr. Kit Hyam. This is described as a book about a global history of gender nonconformity. I've heard really good things about this, that it's very easily broken down and understandable because each chapter deals with different historical references to non-binary people and gender nonconforming people throughout history and throughout different cultures. My mom actually is just reading this one and said that she's really enjoying it, that she's taking it chunk by chunk, and found a lot of really, really interesting stuff in it. So I am looking forward to reading this as well. For genre fiction, I have Hell Followed With Us by Andrew Joseph White. This book, I love the cover, first of all, and I have been seeing this everywhere on Instagram. This has been popping up so much in my feed. I don't know if it's just the people that I'm following or if this has like been a really trendy book this year, but it is like popping off. And I'm so excited to finally read it and join the club. This follows a 16-year-old trans boy named Benji. He is fleeing from a cult. This cult started Armageddon and drastically reduced the world's population. The thing that Benji is escaping for is he's trying to find a safe place to hide because they have programmed a biological weapon inside of him, and that cult wants to set it off and destroy the rest of the world. I am so here for this. I love a dystopia. I love a cult. I love the creepy elements. I love all the sci-fi elements mixed in. This honestly sounds like it's right up my alley. We're gonna start with a fiction selection, which is When the Angels Left the Old Country by Sasha Lamb. This is described as a queer immigrant fairy tale. It follows an angel and a demon. They're essentially protectors of a small shtetl. When one of their community members immigrates to the United States and then ends up in trouble, they immigrate along to the United States to try and protect her. I'm so excited. I love the concept of the main characters being an angel and a demon and them being friends and having to work together to protect their community. I also love that this talks about immigration and the struggles of immigration, and I am so excited to dive into this. For my nonfiction selection, I have Genderqueer by Maya Kobabe. This book started as an autobiography that charts Maya's own journey of self-identification, but eventually evolves into a guide on gender identity. I've seen this book a lot as well. I've seen this book described as being very helpful in further understanding trans identities, and I'm really looking forward to getting into it and like enhancing my education and knowledge around this topic. After that, I have She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. This is described as Mulan meets the Song of Achilles. So I'm automatically here for it. I love a good fantasy. I loved the story Mulan. I loved the story Song of Achilles. This sounds like a combo that's right up my alley from the start. This story takes place in the mid-1300s when China is under Mongol rule. So we have a main character named Zhu whose brother dies, and after his death, she steals his identity so that she can join a monastery. And while she's there, she learns that she'll do whatever it takes to survive. I have seen this one a lot. It's been popping up all over the place. I've heard really good things. Like I said, I love fantasy. I love strong characters. I am really, really interested in this. This is maybe my most anticipated read on this TBR so far. I have several other books that I've added onto this list that I wanted to make sure I included in this TBR. The first of which is Freshwater by Akweke Emeze. I have read Vivek Oji, Dear Santhurin, and You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty. I am a big fan of Emeze's writing, and I am looking forward to getting into Freshwater. I know this is their debut, and it was heavily, heavily praised. It follows Ada, a Nigerian woman who develops separate selves after she's born with one foot on the other side. I am really, really excited to get into this. After that, I have an ARC called Horse Barbie by Gina Rosero. This is their memoir of being a trans beauty queen from the Philippines, and then their experiences of having to go back into the closet to be a model in New York City. I think that this sounds really, really good. I've seen a handful of reviews on this from people that had other ARCs of it as well, and it's getting great feedback. After that, I have An Unkindness of Ghosts by River Solomon. I read Sorrowland by River Solomon a couple years back and enjoyed it. I think it was one of those books that I've enjoyed more with time to think about it. I think initially after I read it, I was a little like, I'm not sure how to feel about it. But as I've continued to read and expand my reading, I appreciate it more and more retrospectively. So I wanted to jump into Unkindness of Ghosts. This has been on my TBR for quite a while, and I don't even know how to describe this book really. This is about a spaceship that ferries people to a new land called the Promised Land. However, the ship is structured similarly to the antebellum South. And we have a main character named Aster who's living in the lower deck slums of this ship. When a death occurs on this ship, they find that their mother's death a quarter of a century earlier might be connected somehow. I love River Solomon. They come up with the most unique concepts for their books. I'm sure that this one's going to be no different. After that, I have Sissy, a coming of gender story by Jacob Tobiah. This is about Jacob's experience growing up and being unsure of their gender identity and eventually coming to terms with what their identity is. I've heard good things about this, and I think this month I have like 3 or 4 different memoirs on this TBR. Usually I maybe read 1 or 2 memoirs in an individual month, but in this particular case, I felt like it was especially important for me to be reading memoirs, because how am I going to understand somebody's experiences and struggles and things that I should be aware of without reading personal experiences? So I think this is going to be a great memoir. I think I'm going to learn a lot from it. Looking forward to getting into it. Then I have The Black Tides of Heaven by Neon Yang. This is a fantasy, possibly sci-fi sort of a book, and I believe it's just one book within a whole series. This features a set of twins named Makoya and Akeha, and they were sold to the Grand Monastery as children. Akeha eventually decides to leave the Tensoret and join the rebels, but with every step he takes towards the rebels, he takes one step further away from his sister. He's going to eventually try to find a balance between the rebels and the sister that he loves so dearly. And finally, I have When the Moon Was Ours by Anna Marie McLemore. We have 2 characters named Miel and Sam. They're as strange as they are inseparable. And then there's 4 sisters who are maybe possibly even a bit stranger, and everyone suspects of being witches. When they find out about Miel's special power, they want to harness it for use in their own spells. Miel has to do everything that she can to protect herself. I honestly don't know that much about this book. It was something where the cover caught my eye. It seemed like it might be interesting and it might be a bit different than some of the other books on my shelf. I think this is YA and has a bit of a romance plot, so it's definitely a bit of a departure from anything else that I have on this TBR this month. So those are the books that I have picked out for TransGirlApril. I hope that you found this interesting and maybe you found some recommendations for some books that you're interested in reading yourself. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up and comment down below. Let me know, who is your favorite trans author? Let's celebrate, let's share recommendations. I'm sure that there's authors I haven't heard of out there, and I always want to keep adding to my TBR. And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button down below, as well as that notification bell so that you never miss a video. And that way we can see each other again soon. Thanks so much for joining. Bye.